Yeah, really excited just to, I guess, create an opportunity for us as church leaders to come together. I was chatting with David Campbell and Dave Redbond over the last kind of week or two, and perhaps even just suggesting that we create a bit of an opportunity for us as church leaders to come together. And I guess we're all asking lots of questions. There's not loads of answers. We're all asking lots of questions, but actually, I guess just giving some permission to some of the questions that we are asking. And personally, I guess I've just been reaching out to some different people for input and just to talk things through in this season, as I'm sure lots of you have as well. And let me just, I guess, go back a little bit. About 2 years ago, for us as a church, we engaged in a learning community in Peterborough with Kingsgate Church. Some of you will have heard about that. And while we were there, we met Michael Murphy. And Michael is one of the key guys who just brings some real focus to the learning community, some of the teaching and the input to us as church leaders. And just really every time he's spoken into that, just found what he brought so valuable and timely for us as a church. And then about a week ago, just over a week ago, I think it was, Michael, I got just a message from him just saying, hey, we'd love to connect with you in this season. And Danny, my wife, and I, we just had an opportunity to get an hour with Michael. And it was just so valuable. Some of the stuff that he had been thinking through, had been talking through with other church leaders. And over an hour, I can honestly say he just really inputted into our lives where we are right now, and some of the questions we're asking. And I guess just trying to help us create a little bit of a roadmap through what is a lot of people have been using lots of different words for this season. Unprecedented is one, unpredictable, lots of different words. But I guess just trying to create a roadmap through this and helping us navigate our way through it as senior leaders, as church leaders, trying to lead teams as well, staff teams, but also congregation, connecting with other leaders as well, and just found what he brought so valuable. And I shared it with Dave Campbell, some of the stuff, and just felt like it would be great to perhaps just offer some of the stuff that Michael was sharing a little bit wider. And so when Michael and I were talking, he was really keen to connect with other leaders, and is really just thrilled to be able to come and join us. And he'll kind of give his own introductions in just a moment. But I really just want to commend the next hour to you. The plan is that Michael will probably teach for about 30 minutes or so. Get your notepads ready, your iPads, whatever you want to take notes on, and just make sure you are scribbling notes through this, because there will be some real gold for you just to take and I think to go away and think on. You know, lots of the stuff that he's going to bring is not just you'll enjoy it in the moment, but actually it's going to really just take some time afterwards to think it through, to apply it to your context. And that's the really key part, is how you apply this to your context and where you are, because it's going to be different for lots of us. And so to get ready to take notes and enjoy the next hour. And then what we're going to do after 30 minutes of teaching, roughly about 30, maybe 40 minutes teaching, we're going to open it up for Q&A. And so what we'd love you to do is use the chat bar at the bottom and type in your questions there. And you can just submit them to me privately or onto the everyone. I'll see them. I'll take a note of them. And we've also got George Botha, who's on with us, who works alongside Michael. And so he's going to kind of help us a little bit with that later on, with the questions, and keeping an eye on those as well. And he'll work with Michael after he's done some teaching, just to look at those questions. You really just to apply some of the stuff that's relevant to you guys. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Michael. Michael, thank you so much for your time. Really pleased you've been able to come and join us. And I'm going to hand over to you, mate, and let you get crack on.
Thank you so much, Carl. We had a delightful time with Carl and Danny on the phone the other day, and as he said, the Peterborough experience has been an entirely just enthralling one. As I think about 350 leaders, about 70 something churches, the UK, mainly the UK, but also from Europe. As you can tell, I'm not from the UK, but my claim to fame is I stole an English rose from Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. And that's Valerie, my bride, and I was wondering whether she was going to come, but she said no. I'm not good enough to come online at the moment. It's Eve here. I really am delighted to be here, and we are just trying to get around and help as many. Oh, yes, she is. Here she is. Quick. Just my English Rose from Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. And
putting grandchildren to bed. Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Hi,
she's
Valerie.
put up
Good
with
to see
me
you.
for
Hello.
38 years, and we've got 3 kids, three grandkids, and it's been an amazing season, hasn't it? I mean, right at the outset, let me say that having done this pastoring thing for something like nearly 38 years now, we led. We were on a team for 12 years, and then were lead pastors for 18 years, and then for the last nearly 7 years, we've been having the privilege, actually, of working with some of God's generals. Thank you for introducing George. George, just say hi, buddy, and just share just a minute on some of the things that have been going on. This week I've got 35 Zoom calls. And so it's pretty flat out, but they kind of iron out in the afternoon and the evening. I start at 6 a.m. in the US, well, not in the US, but, to the US. And, but I'm honestly delighted to be here. George, say hi. And he's South African and living in New Zealand. And he's an amazing leader in his own right.
Yeah, good day, everybody. I'm very familiar with England. I lived there for 15 years of my life, played rugby there, and then worked with Hillsong London for over 10 years, Hillsong Europe. So yeah, so privileged to help serve on the team with Michael. And just love seeing all pastors. This is what we do. We love pastors. We love helping pastors. And we just see it as such a privilege to be able to link in with you guys on the other side of the planet. So you'll be blessed tonight. Michael's awesome.
George, would you be as fit now as you were playing rugby? Just a little question to kick the evening off. Yeah,
I'd like to say yes, but no, I've got 4 monkeys. I've got 4 boys, so they keep me pretty fit on my toes. But I've lost about 10 kgs since then, and then it was all muscles, so I can't say yes.
You're right. So great to be here. We're going to dive right in a moment. I'll give you 35 minutes. Please ask any question. There's no question that is off limits. If you get too personal, I'll refer those to George. But we seriously, we are here to help. That's our main kind of deal. And we're trying to get to as many pastors as we can. I've got one of these tomorrow morning with about 100 pastors in Australia and the US. It's hard to get the times right for the UK, US, Australia. So George and I had 2 calls this morning with those that are on our program. I'm going to give you kind of a spray for that time. And I will say, having connected to hundreds, literally hundreds, maybe like connected to thousands over the last season in terms of just putting stuff out, but actually connected with hundreds. The 3 things I want to share with you tonight, 2 of the 3, none of those 100 pastors were actually doing effectively. Now, I'm not saying that with any sense of arrogance, but they really are game changers. I had one pastor today, he said, now we went on and church, he's one of the pastors, key pastors at a church of 10,000 members up in Minneapolis. And he said, we went online, but we didn't go that deep. And so there's a couple of little kind of bullets that I think you can put in your gun, take it away. Now, obviously, I can do what we can do in this time in a general sense. We've talked a lot, and I just shared my schedule with you. I'm not always available. George isn't always available. Between the 2 of us, we could be available. And so what I'm proposing is there may be some of you that go, yeah, that's great. That's a bit of a tectonic shift that you're presenting to us. How the heck would we actually implement that? And so we are going to offer, totally free, a 30-minute, we can only afford that, like a pivot call, because there's pivots that needed here. Many of us, we spend a lot of energy getting online and then ringing all our people, and now we're going, okay, what the heck next? Our heads are way beyond COVID. We want you to thrive and actually grow through this season. And so should you wish to book one of those slots. There are honestly a limited number. I'm going to get George, just throw the link in. You can dive into that as soon as you like. And that way we can take what we're giving you tonight and actually get a bit of a context of where you're at and give you a bit of a game plan over the next 60 to 90 days. I'm going to share screen, so it'll go a bit funny for a moment, and then we will get right into it. All right. So COVID-19, what a crazy, crazy season we are in. Worship services cancelled, I saw online. No! Church is not closed. Church has never actually been more open. This is a God-given opportunity. Now, I'm not saying COVID is God, but it's a classic Josepharian situation where the enemy meant something for evil and God turned it around for good. I am carrying not a wishful thought, not a hypey gesture or inspiration. I'm carrying a conviction that God wants to grow your church through this season. I know that might seem like the opposite spirit to maybe how some of you are feeling, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing those that make the shift, not only with their views. Views are the new crack for pastors, the new adrenaline shot for pastors. Many of us are getting double, triple, quadruple the views. Until you drill in and find out what that means in Facebook world, it's 3 second, 10 second, and so forth. Most accounting, I did a whole part of our curriculum. I've just recorded 10 tutorials totally on thriving and crushing COVID. And I did the final one today on metrics. Some of you might want to ask that question later on. But here we go. The 3 must-dos to actually grow your church through this COVID-19 season without going crazy or without mortgaging your future. Always a bit of time for a tiny bit of humor. We used to spin that toilet paper roll like it was a wheel of fortune. Now I turn it like I'm cracking a safe. Plenty of meat left on that bone. They said that masks and gloves were enough to go to the grocery. They lied. Everyone else had clothes on. Wearing a mask inside your home is now highly recommended. Not so much for preventing COVID, but to stop eating. Give us a thumbs up if that's been a challenge for you. Jesus rode an ass into Jerusalem. Keep yours at home. We're always to that. The good news, pastor approves of you being on Facebook during church. Some nice creative pastor thought he'd give his pastor some accompaniment. That's kind of similar to some of the congregations I've preached to, actually. And you need to patent that seat. It's going cheap in about 4 months, but it's really expensive right now if you can get in there. Social distancing baptistry. I can think of a couple of people I'd like to baptize like that. And the start of the year, we knew exactly what we needed to do. Now we're not so sure. The devil whispered in my ear, "You're not strong enough to withstand the storm." I whispered, "Get back 6 feet, you idiot," or 2 meters, depending on where you're at. We honestly want to, just before we move on, just again acknowledge what you guys have accomplished. In the space of 4 days, in some cases, you pivoted your whole church and went from on-site to online. Some never having really done that before. And again, I don't want to just rush ahead without acknowledging what an amazing feat that really is. But we'd all realize that these things start, there are some big nucleus rocks to nail, and then we go between the lines and there's some nuances. I'm sure everyone's got small groups. I'm sure everyone's got some way of connecting with new people. I'm sure you're online and you're doing okay. But tonight, I want to talk to you about some nuances that are going to give you very significant traction should you choose to accept this particular mission. I've been unpacking, or excuse the pun, unpeeling, a thought called the online onion, acknowledging that you can't do everything at once, like we tried to do in the first 10 days. And some of my pastor friends nearly lost their mind. I shouldn't laugh about that. It was just crazy. It was manic. It was hot. Oh my gosh. But as we peel different layers of the onion back, sometimes there's tears, but we do it in a concerted effort. This is my little 5-station model that I've been working with all of the churches that work closely with us. We do have a couple of programs where I'm in their grill for their sins every single week. negotiating every little nuance and question in this season. All the first 3 weeks, really it's ongoing, we were infatuated with the online experience. We've got to get there, what platform, how to do it, can we get a decent camera? I got an old iPhone 8, got a crack in the screen, but it's still got a camera. That'll do for now. Man, church online crashed first week. Is Facebook Live okay? What about YouTube? That still continues. I want to talk, one of the points is related to that tonight, and that's the game-changing point. The second part of our engagement or our focus was these two, particularly this one. We were asking asking the question, how the heck do we engage with our people now? Our first strategy was, let's ring them all every day on the hour, every hour, so that they feel loved and part of us. I'm saying beautiful. But I'm now saying, what the heck are you doing? Stop calling your church. Now, I don't mean that seriously, but my tongue is mildly in my cheek, but not completely. Because unless you want to build a whole lot of teat suckers, a whole little milk drinkers, change my nappy when we come out of this thing, then you'll do it a different way. You'll ensure that your whole church is being cared for and looked after in a way that doesn't come back to you or your key team. We'll talk a bit about that. Engage and connect. Here is the rocket fuel of this whole season. I hear some saying, man, the devil, he's keeping us apart. The Bible says, do not forsake yourself, the assembling of yourselves together, as is the habit of some, governor, prime minister. We believe in Jesus. Saw a pastor the other day, just got out of prison, obviously for flouting what has been about helping the vulnerable. And denying the fact that we're actually connecting. We're probably connecting more deeply. Now, here's what happens. I wish I had a coffee mug in the foyer after church. This is the depth of kind of, yep. Hey, Bill, how you going? Hey, Rob, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, what do you think about those Liverpool? Man, they can't win a game right now. Oh, man, you all the way. Anyway, great to have some fellowship. God bless you. Praise the Lord. See you next week. It gets a little bit deeper than that, but in most cases, not much. I've been in some post-service Zoom rooms, and we've dove deep quick, and we've had real authentic ministry in half an hour, maybe more than I've had in most foyers in my life. And then, of course, it's still important to continue to grow leaders and then embrace the community, not just the physical community, meeting the needs of the vulnerable. I know many of you be doing that. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But embracing the respective Facebook communities and crew of each of those in your church. Here's a conviction that I honestly have. There's no sense of, telling a pork pie here, Michael. God wants to grow your church through COVID. Now, if that shatters something in your thinking, or if that goes, turn it up, buddy. You Australians, man, you got too much sun. Then that would be indicative of the fact that you've bought some of the lies. You've bought some of the, oh my gosh. You see, the truth is that God is totally undaunted. Now, I don't want to in any way gloss over the fact that there's a whole stack of people that are hurting big time right now. There's a whole lot of pain. There's a whole lot of uncertainty. So please don't hear me being glib about that. But that, from a heaven's perspective, it hasn't changed one little bit. You'll see that behind me right now. I've positioned that. It's being held basically by gaffer tape. And so don't breathe too loudly or it'll fall down into the staircase behind it. But I put it there. A youth pastor gave me that as a gift when we moved on from our church and handed over to a younger couple nearly 7 years ago. It says, go therefore in gold leaf and make disciples of all nations, Matthew 28:19. It's there continually behind me in every call I do to remind myself and to those that will listen that all we're dealing with here is the shifting of methodology. The mandate from heaven, and if I preach at you at any stage here, I apologize in advance. I am totally passionate about this stuff. If I can infuse you with a bit of faith and inject you with a bit of hope and lift your thinking to say, God, how could we grow in these next 2, 3, or 4 months? The mandate from heaven hasn't changed. The mission for the church hasn't changed. We're just fiddling with some methods is all we're doing. Let's not get too engrossed with that, lest we drop our guard and make the horizon survival through this time. And of course, everyone, I hear you say, don't be silly. Your language and your behavior, even some very great churches that I've worked with over the last 3 weeks, gives us away. The little tinge. Oh man, can't wait to get back, Bob. Oh yeah, me too, Reg. Really miss those people. I can't wait for the church to open again. What the heck? We've never been more open. We've never had a greater team, a crew to reach. Let's not allow even that lie, frankly, from the pit of hell to filter into our heart so that we put ourselves on a treadmill. We're just hunkering down right now, just hunkering down for Jesus until we can have church again. You'll miss a golden opportunity that is a gift from God for us right now. Breathe, Michael. Okay. The one key to impactful online services and how to implement them regardless of the size of your church or your budget. Drum roll, please. The fallacy of mass media. There's no such thing as mass media. It's always one-to-one. The only real online church we've seen, the online examples is online church. Bishop, Stephen Furtick, some of the other, Brian Houston, and we've seen church online. And they have cool camera shots and they pan way back and the music is crescendo to the max and the smoke machines and the LED screens and woohoo! We're having church online. No, we're having church on TV. What they do is they do a panned crowd shot, panning the crowd. They pan the crowd. And so instinctively your mind says, I get it. They're in church, a big church. That's why he's spitting. That's why he's sweating and rubbing his brow. That's it. Let me tell you, friend, the YouTube style, as I'll call it, is a very different media. Very different style indeed, which is why nugget number one is audience-centric communication. Now, doesn't mean you can't use a pulpit, but please understand, get inside the heart, mind, and lounge room of the audience. This is basic communication 101, but it's almost the opposite form of communication that's needed to the incredible communication that you do to hold a room of 100 or 250 or 500. It's arms, it's legs, it's ambience, it's loud, it's soft, it's expression, you plus 50%. Audience-centric communication says, hang on a minute. They're sitting in a lounge room. You got a couple of kids fighting on the floor. You got a dog that's lifting his leg on the couch over the other way. They've just had breakfast. In fact, Dad hasn't finished his pancakes and he's just spilled it on the carpet. And Mum's not happy at all. And worship goes on. So it's audience-centric communication. We don't have time for it right now, but I do recommend, some are doing this well, a service guide that you communicate, 10 pager. That number one is engagement. Use the biggest screen in the house. Turn the volume right up. Have the kids settled and put the dog outside. And so almost like a safety demonstration. You can do it on digital, flat screen, or you can do it in a little video form. Broadcasters, and I've been working with the leading educational broadcaster in Australia, broadcast educator, as so named in Parliament by our then Education Minister, a guy named Mr. Alan Ellis, been in the industry as a broadcaster for 30 years, was one of the producers of the Sydney Olympic Games ceremonies. So he's a bit of a big deal. His program was the leading program in the network that he was on for a decade. He gets it. He loves God. He's a spirit-filled believer. And so he's instructed. He's actually even offered to review some online broadcasts if people are game. You normally charge us several thousand a day. I think he's doing it for $1 a head. So if you got 200, it'll cost you $200 to get a professional to review that. That's beside the point. He says, you should imagine you're 1 meter away. Now, if Carl, whom I can see on my screen here, if I was talking to Carl 1 meter away and I was saying, the love of God is amazing, Carl would say, excuse me, Michael, you're being way too Australian. Get the heck out of my face. If I was waving my arms around and so forth, it might be great from a platform with 250 people, but it doesn't cut the mustard if we're across a coffee table. And so language and style, obviously light and sound, engagement is what it's at. And so scrutinizing your message, and honestly, people will lie to you. They'll say, awesome, Pastor. I had a pastor the other day, big church in Canada. And his guy said, Pastor, you seem like you're cooped up on a stool like that. And he announced, and I know him well, and said, hey, dude, what were you doing there? He said, this week I'm going to get a microphone back in my hand. In other words, implying I'm going to preach it. Church of 2,000 or 3,000. And I said, what the heck are you doing, dude? Why you're being preacher centric right there. You know too much. What you know right now is being impediment to what you don't know. Please get back to thinking about audience-centric communication. Please feel free to put any of the questions you might have in the chat box underneath, and we'll deal with them in 10 or 15 minutes. If you want a scripture for that, and I guess that's a good idea, the word became flesh. God giving the salvation message did not skywrite it. He sent his son. It's called incarnational communication. And that's what we're talking about. We're trying to get into the hearts and minds of the receivers. Like I said, it's one-on-one communication. Communication is not what you said or not what you sung. Communication is what they received. So let's be I promise if you do this and you keep scrutinizing it, then you will actually, the goal is connection. It might change how your worship team works. It may change how you communicate. Vulnerability is the new ambience. And so you being vulnerable about your journey and even some of the thoughts you've had and the challenges invites people to lean in. I'm obviously doing that intentionally right now, scaring the life out of most of you, but that's important. Number 2, the secret sauce to engage your people. This was a big concern for so many of us. That's Bondi Beach on the day before they shut it, where it's not a whole lot of social distancing happening there. I'm sure you'll agree. And we miss that. I understand. I'm a rabid extrovert. I found myself standing at the wire screen with my nose pressed up against the wire screen, looking at the road, hoping that someone would walk past and wave and say, hi, Michael. I get it. I'm an extrovert. But we were all concerned, how the heck do we connect with our people despite social distancing? This is a little model that we've been working with. It's about people. I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. We can unpack it in questions if you like. Virtual groups, that's what I want to talk about now. The post-service component, what happens there. Many are doing a post-service for you. It's nice, but it's not effectual to do anything like what you need. And I'll just talk straight to you. We've only got a short amount of time. I won't mince my words here if you don't mind. The actual broadcast, your language needs to be the language of progression. It's not about the broadcast. It's about connecting. It's about next steps. It's about people advancing and diving deeper into engagement with us. And then the lounge, we will also talk about. Moses didn't do ministry, if I can use that word, the way that he did because he thought it was a stupid idea. He actually thought that was the ministry. Pastors that are pastor-centric, that haven't been able to empower others, you know, where you hear, we speak to hundreds of pastors every month. It's hard to get good people, and I've got to do it because no one else, and they will provide a lid. There's a reason why 80% of the churches in the world are under 200. That's about the size that a pastor can get his arms around the whole congregation. Know their birthdays, visit their kids' births. Not the actual birth, the hospital, take the hamper there. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but in some cases, not by much. If that's you right now, can I ask you with all the Aussie love in my heart that I can, stop it. You must raise leaders. You must empower people. Moses was one of the greats of Israel, and yet he was doing a crazy thing that his father-in-law called out. His father-in-law said, the thing you're doing, Mo, is not good. You're going to burn yourself out on your people as well. Jethro came along and said, just appoint some over 1,000, some over 100, some over 50, some over 10s. Easy for us to read and him to say. Imagine the weeks of work that would have been, Moses would have said, hey, tribal leaders, Reuben, hey, do you know anyone that could kind of look after 1,000? Rupert, I think he's got 1,000 in him. Oh, no, Jono, no, he's only 100. Yeah. Imagine they needed 3,000 leaders of 1,000. Anyway, I'll move on. So don't think this won't take work. If you want to get the infrastructure right to prepare for growth in this season, I promise you it's a 4-letter word, WORK. It's about group-centric. I want you to get in your mind right now the number of people pre-COVID you had on a Sunday with kids. Some saying 120. Yep, I hear you. 270. I'm making that up. Whatever that number is, it is my firm conviction that you need 12 to 15% of that Sunday attendance as virtual groups. So if you've got 100, you'll need 15. If you've got 200 on a Sunday, you need 30. You say, whoa, hang on a minute, dude. I've struggling to get online and get my groups digital. We've got that. I thought, man, that's awesome. We're here. No, you're going for a 1 to 8 or a 1 to 10 span of care. That's why I said before, stop phoning your church, start enlisting leaders. This is a season where people have never been more open to the gospel, and arguably people have never been more willing to step up. It's almost like, without dramatizing it, a time of almost like wartime, where, prime ministers end up in ICU, and people realize this is like none else. And so your conversation with them, tapping on the shoulder and helping them to rise up so that you can get that number of small groups. I call them V groups or virtual groups. I'm naming them differently to your normal Connect, Life, or small groups, only because I want to differentiate them from that, because a number of people have already made that decision in their mind. I'm not a life group leader. I'm not a small group. Now, you asked me before, Pastor Carl, Diane, I'm not, no. We had, I know that, Bob, but this is a V group. You don't even have to open your home. It's way easier, and we'll put training wheels on it for you. The roles and responsibilities, let me cut to the chase on this. There's a weekly call that they will make to everyone. You allocate everyone to one of those V groups. And some of you have checked out already and went, oh my gosh, this is just too hard. Well, it depends the outcome you want. This is the know the state of your flock. This will separate the men from the boys or the women from the girls. I told you I'll talk to you straight. This is a God-breathed opportunity. And we've got many cases, people waiting for a return to church, like in some really big churches I'm talking about. And pastors saying, I'm not sure what the guys are doing at home. We're paying them still because we want to. It's the right thing to do. But we kind of get them making some fun. Come on. If you've got, probably you'll have half or a third the number of groups, if you're anything like others we've worked with, that I'm suggesting. And like I said, it's not nonsensical. I'm doing it because you want a 1 to 8 or 1 to 10 span of care, not just with your Sunday attendance, but all of those that are on your roll. They make a weekly phone call and they've got 3 messages. They say, Pastor Carl's asked me to call, and he wants to, we're praying all the time at the moment. He wants to know your prayer needs and your practical needs. And so you give them that. Then I'm going to invite you. This is going to be so exciting. We're going to have a Zoom group. Listen to this right now. A Zoom group straight after church on Sunday. And we're going to unpack, sorry to pick on you, Carl, Pastor Carl's message, or just Carl's message, whatever. That right there, I hope you caught it. The call beforehand and the after church Zoom group is a game changer. It is a subtle, not so subtle, accountability that you simply don't have right now. They roll in, they roll out, they click, they don't click, they make too many pancakes, they've got to eat them, so they miss the service time. They know if they come to the Zoom group, they're going to come to church. So it'll increase your online attendance by 30+%, and probably your giving as well. And the power that happens in those little Zoom groups. Some are doing Zoom groups, but they're random. They all come together, and then Zoom goes, does its magic, and randomly allocates you. Yes, better than nothing, but it gives you no accountability and no pre-phone call. Think about this on site even, and the power of that. If every person every week was being invited to something after church, I think it would make a difference. I've been using the little anagram, everyone. E for enemy. Before you present any vision, you've got to present the burning bridge, the urgency. And right now, I think that's easy to do. You're not talking about survival. You're talking about we're thriving. We're going to usher in a revival here right now. And I don't say that lightly. I actually believe God's got a cyber revival agenda here. I know I've lost some of you right there, but honestly, that's what I'm carrying. I've just got to be honest with you. And it is incumbent upon us, like it was the disciples when Jesus called them, who were karatitzoing their nets. They were mending their nets to pull the strands together. And what if God does want to double your church right now? Have you got the nets to hold it? No, we haven't. Well, how would you expect him to do it then? Enlist. Get the role right. What the new role? So you're redeploying people to V group leaders, making a weekly phone call, running a Zoom group afterwards. And then the third role is online evangelism, leading the charge in sharing, in co-sponsoring a watch party. Now, I think you're recording this, Carl. Great. So you can play this back. I know I'm talking fast. I hope you're listening fast, but you can play it back, play it to your team. It's yours. Number 6, this might sound a bit funny. Ordain. Man, I would love to ordain everyone in your church to represent Jesus Christ and Elim, Bolton, or wherever you are. This is a time of, this is Ephesians 4. This is what Paul was talking about. Equipping the saints for the work of the ministry with the click of a button. If the Apostle Paul rocked in, says, he came, sir, there you go. What's that? What's that? Zoom? Facebook? Explain Facebook to me, guys. Oh, it's the, no, you joke. No, you're kidding. You're pulling a leg. Don't be ridiculous. You can't share the gospel with the whole world with a click of a, no. I rode horses and camels and, you serious? Run that by me again. Like, this is our normal. And the moment, it's all we've got, because frankly, at the moment, it's all we need. Let's not hanker. We've got to get in a building. Got to go back to church. Let's understand God is all over this moment if we'll see it for what it is. They'll look after the new people for you, engage your existing people, everyone. We talked about that. Number 3. So that was V groups, 12 to 15%, 10 if you scrape it by, of your Sunday attendance, men, women, and children as V groups. The essential ingredient to connect new people. Anyone have a slight concern about how the heck might you connect new people? They're not texting, that's for sure. People are saying, man, we got the text to connecting, and it's like crickets. How do we do that? Views are up, but how do we connect with people? In terms of soul winning and evangelism, and this is part of that, because this is the increase of new people. Obviously, the core of the whole thing is the heart. The community stuff is people's Facebook groups and the people live that are vulnerable. We've got to present this in a compassionate way. I want you to focus on those 4 royal blue ones, 3 through 6. When we talk about engaging and training people in evangelism, if you can imagine, look at my little Leaderscape logo. It's a triangle. I love triangles. Imagine one side, it's inspire people, that this is the mission of the kingdom. Imagine another one, it's impart, they can do this. And then the bottom one, instruct them. And number 3 there, as a form of evangelism, I call it the connector. And it's a click and flick, a click and run. So they put the link on their Facebook profile, press post, and then run away. And better than nothing. It's like a brochure in a letterbox. Number 4 is composer. They stand by their man, or co-sponsor, really. Co-sponsor is a better word. They stand by the pastor and stand by Jesus, and they do a watch party. You can train them into do all this. I've been doing it the last couple of weeks. Had the deputy mayor and his wife in church last week and the week before. Another business friend who was the prodigal backslidden said he wept through the service. I'm not just telling you theory. This stuff works. A contactor is what I did. I sent a text and the link, and then a creator is full on Instagram and Facebook Lives. Caring is the new sharing, which is evangelism. Sharing is the new evangelism. Facebook advertising, the whole conversation itself. Get into it. It'll cost you very little to target in your geographical area, your very demographic. So number 1 was audience centric. Number 2 is group centric. Number 3 is guest centric. And my proposition to you is that you engage a new people's lounge, a welcome lounge. Use a closed Facebook group to that. Have it really attractive in the sense that provide great value. Talk about it several times during the service, and offer the opportunity for people to come and meet you in there afterwards. You're going to do a Facebook Live. You post, you pin a little welcome video. You add value. You say, hey, again, picking on Carl, you're right next to my photo there, so I'm just thinking about you. Hey, Carl says, hey, Danny and I had some fun this week recording a few videos. We've got a couple of them in our Elim lounge, the area you live, or one was how to be in quarantine and not kill anyone, how to stay home all the time and stay married, how to have your kids at home and not accidentally lose any, how to stay sane when the world's gone crazy, how to touch God when you can't touch anyone else. To name just a few. They're titles with teeth and little 6-minute grabs, and they're on the inside. I've done this for the last 3 years. We've had an online group called the Lead Pastors Momentum Central. If you're not in it, get with the plan. Get in there. There's a lot of information in there. Incidentally, if you haven't yet grabbed one of those, I'm not sure how many have got left, but there'll only be a handful of those 30-minute calls. George and myself, whoever's available, and to literally work through with you how this might apply to specifically your context, your scale, where you're at as a church, and to give you a little game plan over the next 60 or 90 days to say, do this, do that, do the other thing. Watch your faces. We're having the conversation and go, what's your problem? Where's the fear there? Whose face is in your mind when you're balking at raising up that many leaders? Don't tell me there's not 15% of your church that are not capable of running a V group for 30 minutes a week after the service. There is. And if you want to see the growth that God wants, then you'll really, in a sense, pay the price to do that. So tap on that link and it'll take you straight to our calendar, our schedule, and you can book something in straight away. It'll be 30 minutes. And we'll get down to it like I am tonight, and leave you with a little game plan at the end. I think that's about all I have to say about that. Audience-centric, group-centric. That's a game changer right there. That groups thing. If you can commit to do that, then you will build the infrastructure to allow God to 2x your church. And then the guest-centric flows in to help connect those that are new. And I'm going to pull out of this right now and come back to you so that we can maybe take a couple of questions if you have them. Hello. Any questions in the chat box at all?
Yeah, we've got Leon Evans. Leon, do you want to just ask your question? Just unmute your mic and just ask Michael your question.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
How you doing?
Yeah, good to see you. I think I put a couple of questions in. I can't remember what I said now. Hang on, let me just go back. Yeah, the one was, as lockdown eases, how do you see us emerging from this in terms of once we get to hybrid, once we get to on-site and online, how do you see these principles that you're talking about changing or morphing as we move into more of a hybrid situation where it's on-site and online?
It's an awesome question. I literally did this. It's unformed, right? So I've been working on it. I literally, the ink is hardly dry on it. And can you see that at all? I'll go through it. So pre-COVID, post-COVID, from on-site to online to on-site and online.
Yeah.
The pre-COVID situation, a huge component of that is your pre-COVID trajectory. In other words, what was happening in your church? Were you flatlined like 80% of other churches? Were you kicking up? Were you going down? Though the zhush of this, there's an adrenaline rush with you leading your church through a crisis. Don't mistake that for momentum. Seriously.
Yeah,
and if you were not getting any momentum here, you're probably not going to have any momentum here unless you have some tectonic shifts here. which are entirely possible. There's a reset. There's a scorched earth. You can reinvent anything you want. If you weren't leading all that well and you were feeling timid and fearful and insecure, like I was for the first 15 years of my ministry life, and then own up to it and say, God, give me courage, give me bravery to make some big boy pants leadership decisions and get on and rally these people rather than just expect it to happen. And so there's a lot of pivots. There's a push-pull that needs to happen. In other words, we never want to go offline. Why would we? That's what I'm saying. We are now in the pond that most of the people that Jesus died for are dwelling and swimming every day.
Yeah.
And so continue to refine. And that's why I say, please don't in any way, don't with one skerrick of who you are, treat this as a hiatus, as a meantime kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I see that hopefully if you can do what I'm proposing tonight, and again, I won't phone you up or come around and knock on your door and say, what are you doing? Wish I could, because really we've been focusing on this. There is no lead pastor that was before we talked doing any one of those things, except some were doing audience-centric communication, but most not well. Like even the big boys, so-called, they were so preacher-centric that it was hard to adapt to this new dimension. Most were wanting me to applaud when they said, we've got all our groups online and we even got a few more. And I'll be gracious, but I'm not going to be gracious to the point of humoring you. And I do the numbers with them and I go, 1 to 35. Is that realistic? Span of care? Oh. So it ticks a box, but it doesn't actually solve the problem.
Yeah, it's good.
And so it all depends is the answer. It depends on what you go in with. I actually didn't do this for tonight. I'm going to use that. I'll do a teaching on that probably sometime tomorrow. But it's pivot. The push is sending. And so what you get as a base, if you can get that 12 or 15% V groups, you've got, again, we'll go a model of, let's say 300, let's say 200. You've got 30 V group leaders. Now, if you engage each of them as part of their leadership responsibility to actively get fruitful in online sharing, in online hashtag Jesus changed my life, creating, in online co-sponsoring a watch party. And I've done all of those things in the last couple of days. I'm going to work real hard to get with lost people. I spend all of my time with champions and legends like you. And most of you, from what I've told, Carl did say there's a few that are a bit sketchy, but most of you are born again. But here's what I did on the weekend. And I'm going to tell you, and you would only be the 40th people that I've told between us. So I was praying on Sunday morning, 2 weeks ago, and God put the former mayor on my heart. He's been given the job to carve out about $10 million $50 million out of our local constituent council area. He's the hit man, right? In that sense, financially. The mayor is a little more relational and so forth. So Kent is a good friend of mine. He married, his partner is Mel, who's the local state congresswoman. I don't know it's not what we call it, the local state member of parliament, which that's right. We have the same system, similar. So they live on the other side of the river. So I texted Kent. I said, hey buddy, I know you got a lot on. If I got you the link to the service, would you and Mel join us? Came back, send me the link. Not, oh, great to hear from you, Michael. Send me the link. So I sent him a link. And with that, I put another little note to say, hey, straight after it, here's the link to my Zoom room. Why don't we have a coffee? I want to pray, launching out here, a prayer of blessing. Never said this to him. Have protection and provision over you. He was at the service with bells on, identified himself, came to the Zoom group after, got a coffee, both bowed their head as I prayed a prayer of blessing and protection and provision over them. And guess what? I can't shut up about it. That's the point. It's gone viral in my own mouth.
Yeah.
Let's take one of these V group leaders. You encourage them, you train them and teach them how. And whether someone comes or not, they won't be able to shut up about it. And so your 30 become 90 as at least 3 people in their groups get infected with the virus of evangelism. When you re-enter, that's not going to go away. They're still going to be more hungry to see lost people come into the kingdom of God. I must say, he was back in church on the weekend as well. Follow up that week.
Wow, so good. Thank you.
So it all depends, Leon, but it depends on. And to be honest, the call we're talking about will address that. And here's where my head is now. I am waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning with thoughts and ideas about this. The game plan's not just going to be, I think I can. I think, we got through. It's going to be crushing post-COVID.
Very good. Thank you. Very good.
Just got another one there from Sarah Parkinson. It's kind of down the same line. Michael, what do we do with small groups and V groups, or what happens with V groups once we transition into kind of the next post?
So good. Hey, let me draw a little scenario. Would this make you unhappy or happy as a pastor? Now, I get it may not be 100%. If you had your groups and after every service, they came to the service, they met afterwards for a coffee and chatted about your message, would that be a good thing or a really bad thing? I suspect it'd be good. And so if they get into the habit of doing that, you're not going to get 100%. Some will ask, well, what about the other groups? Wednesday night's our group night. We've been doing that for 20 years. Well, stop it right now. They still can meet midweek, but I promise you the traction you'll get for now at least after the service, I would suggest you continue to have an online campus after this. So not just like have a little online campus, continue to get better. And so at least after that, you have some V groups attached to that and so forth. So no one knows exactly, Sarah, but I think we're looking for things right now that are going to make you stronger after COVID and not weaker. Having a 12% or 15% V groups of your Sunday attendance, and then imagine each of those training another leader. I'm a big believer in 3 deep. So that would be, if that was our model of 200 on a Sunday, 30 V group leaders. If you had 2 deep, it'd be 60 that are in training, 30 doing it and 30 in training. If you did 3 deep, it'd be 90 in training. That's right. That right there is rocket fuel for multiplication. And then you need to ramp up your missionalizing of people, your evangelism, which is message hasn't changed. I think we've got to reclaim some theology right now, because sometimes it can get mixed up with churchiology or ecclesiology, how we've done it. Oh, it started to rain outside. Any other questions?
Michael, there is a couple others. And I think a lot of them are really touching on a bit of a mind shift change. You know, when it comes to, you know, so much of what you're talking about today is this whole mind shift that we need to take from pre-COVID, post-COVID, and existing in COVID. Do you want to just share, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left there, just around the mindset that we're really talking about?
I think, so just unpack that just a tiny bit more. I want to make sure that I'm resonating with what you're saying, George.
Yeah, just, you know, our mindsets are a little bit stuck in pre-COVID, and I just want to get back to church. I just want to get back to church. Yeah. But there's something I mean, you've touched on it a couple of times of there's something really magic that's happening here that can happen post-COVID, but it's a mind shift change.
Absolutely. I think that, you know, and I understand there are different capacities, but I also know guys, like many guys that got stuck at 200 or 300 that now pastor churches of thousands, and literally like Sean Nepstad in San Francisco would be one of them. He was starting to pray prayers like, God, is this it? They've been stuck there for 3 years, and it was nothing to do. He didn't need to be more spiritual. Oh, we can all pray more. He didn't need to be a better preacher. This guy's a killer preacher. It was know-how. It was the things he knew were standing in the way from things he didn't yet know. And that's actually my biggest challenge. I know I can help every one of you to get traction with fresh momentum. I am totally confident of that. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of churches and seen that thing catalyze. And now there might be some of you who don't want to change, then no one can help you. You'll continue to pastor the same number of people. If you're not hungry, if you're not believing that God wants you to grow, that's a problem. So if there's some things that are theological, I can't change that. But if you're saying, hey, I kind of think I know what I want, but I don't know how to get there, Shazam. And honestly, a lot of that, I mentioned before, I got beaten up, friends, for the first 15 years. I was sexually abused at 14. There's a bit of intimacy for those that we just met. And I think I carried that by mail, incidentally. I had a very promiscuous teenage years, sleeping around and so forth. And I was a party guy. I was a first generation believer, got radically saved, and my spirit got saved, but I don't think I ever got really transformed. That might sound like oxymoron. The sanctification process, my mindset didn't really shift. I didn't allow God's word to really permeate. I lived in the problem rather than the promise. And so I am vicious on this one. And even to the point of maybe making people a bit uncomfortable to say, your words are creating your world, just like God's word created the worlds in Hebrews chapter 11. And in England, and I've been there a number of times, married one of your own, and in Australia and New Zealand, we are hopeless at this generally. I was with Rod Plummer we had him on our call this morning, pastor church of 4,000 people, 23 campuses in Japan and Asia. And the down in the mouth super spirituality and legalism that was the case when he entered Japan was just palpable. And so he decided he was going to be the happiest, joy-filled person in any group. And I wonder, even as a challenge, for you to be the most happy, joy-filled, visionary person in your church. It is a mindset where we actually believe God at his word, and we're prepared with a humble posture to say, I know some things, but there's a whole lot of stuff I don't know. I'm wanting to be teachable. And like I said, that's why we're offering that call. You say, how does that work? Why is it free? What's the catch? I realize most of you will walk away with a plan that is doable. There'll be a very small number that will go, you know what? Like Carl and Danny are looking to do, and many others. Can you help us? And so we've got we've got options of programs that I'll be in your grill, if that's not too much of a nightmare, every single week with every nuance and every question and every, hey, we'd like to do this and stuff. That'll be a very small percentage. But we just, honestly, I run a nonprofit. Leaderscape is not my business. It pays me a salary, and I am totally dedicated. What we do to pastors, to help, particularly in this time, America pays us very, very well. They pay me $36,000 a year, US, for 4 visits that I'm now doing online. And I've got about 15 of those churches. That goes into my nonprofit. So we're looked after well. That allows us to do what we do in the developing world for free. So this ain't about the money. It's about helping you. But I understand it'll take more than a 30-minute or 40-minute to get you this kind of pivot that is necessary, unless you're happy to leave COVID in the same sort of trajectory as you entered. I think we're blowing the time, Carl. I'm good for a few more minutes if others have got questions. But otherwise, I hope that has been helpful for you.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Michael. And I know everyone's on mute, but I think just on their behalf, for me, just to pass on our appreciation for your time, but just the input. Again, I mean, that's the second time I've heard some of that stuff, and it's like I'm hearing it for the first time again, and just finding myself thinking through some of those things. So just thank you so much. It's great. Some of the comments there, people just thanking you for your time, your input. I think just to say to everyone as we do draw this to a close that those 30-minute appointments that George put the link on, maybe George, you could put it again just for anybody who wants to see that. If you do want to pick some of this up with Michael and with George, like he said, just to apply some of this to your context, then you can book one of those appointments.
You and Danny did one, right?
Yeah, we did one with you, and it was just so valuable just to get that time. Yeah.
No one died.
No one died. No, we didn't die. In fact, off the back of that, we had some time with our leadership, with our staff, that we kind of just translated some of the stuff that Michael shared with us and talked through it to our team. And we've really just spent the last couple of weeks pivoting around some of this stuff for us, using Michael's phrase there. So yeah, it's been really beneficial. Also, just as well as that, I want to just say as well that for us here in the Met regions, I'm really keen just to continue this conversation amongst us as ministers, really, as church leaders. Right. So if that is something that is interesting to you, kind of, hey, we want to maybe not weekly, but maybe a couple of times a month, we want to connect and kind of keep this conversation live. I'd love you just to maybe drop me an email just so we could see how many people are up for that. I've just posted my email address there for those that don't have it. And it'd be great for you just to drop me an email and just say, hey, we'd love to continue this conversation, and we can then pick that up between us. Michael.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
And George, thanks, buddy, for being on. It's 10 o'clock in New Zealand right now. And so we have the UK obviously has a special place in our heart. We're missing it. We're there at least twice a year. We were with European Learning Community. Our wings are very much clipped at the moment. But we've, you know, I've got, I don't know if you can see them, my little Cotswold houses. I just love the Cotswold and the West Country as well, down Cornwall and Port Isaac and so forth. And so it's always a special time we get to be there. And it's a delight to be with you today. I hope there was some insightful, helpful thoughts there. And even for you, Leon, sneaking down from the Midlands there, and you didn't even have to leave your lounge room. There you go. God bless.
Bless you. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, George. God bless you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye now. Bye-bye.